Hi. Welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. Smelling the scent of another woman's perfume on him, I endured it. Hearing countless rumors about him, I endured it. Until one day, another woman brought a child who looked just like him. I knew it was time to step aside. After all, I was just his dispensable trophy wife. Smelling the scent of another woman's perfume on him, I endured it. Hearing countless rumors about him, I endured it. Until one day, another woman brought a child who looked just like him. I knew it was time to step aside. After all, I was just his dispensable trophy wife. I had a premonition that my marriage to Riker Leonard might be coming to an end. At 2 a.m., my phone vibrated, and I woke up. His tone when he answered the call was a tenderness I had never seen. "The child has a fever, I'll come right away." Hearing the word child, my drowsiness instantly vanished. As he spoke, he put on his clothes. I sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. "Where are you going?" He replied indifferently, "Mind your own business and don't ask too many questions." I couldn't fall back asleep and stood by the window, watching him rush away in his car. How many times had this happened? I had lost count. Watching his retreating figure, I sighed silently. The Leonard family, the largest business family in Florford, had a massive real estate conglomerate with countless properties. They were the richest in the city, and my husband Riker, the third son of the Leonard family and the chosen heir, was also the most beloved child of the family. Not to mention, he was exceptionally handsome and charming, and had the charisma to outshine even the hottest male celebrities. A godly figure who casually strolled through the mortal world, stealing countless women's hearts. Being with a man destined to be so fickle, one had to be prepared to endure the presence of many admirers by his side. And how did I manage to carve a path for myself among these many women and become Mrs. Leonard? It's quite ridiculous. My family used to run a factory responsible for supplying materials to construction companies, had a deep collaboration with the Leonard family's real estate business. Even with just the surplus materials, we had projects worth trillions in cooperation. Boarding the Leonard family's ship, the business should have flourished. However, my father, introduced to the stock market by an acquaintance, lost everything in a short time, even almost had to mortgage the factory. At that time, I was just a junior employee in the construction company, and despite reaching the position of sales manager through my efforts, my meager salary couldn't cover our family's expenses, let alone my father's astronomical debts. To spare my family from living in constant fear and dread of debt collectors, I made the decision to give up on certain things called dignity. Accidentally stumbled into Riker, attracting his attention. Soon, I became Riker's mistress, and due to my competent work, I swiftly climbed to the position of manager in the Leonard family's company. His only demand was always one thing: obedience. I knew myself well. Compared to the other women who had been around him, I never crossed the line. As time passed, his circle dwindled, and I gradually became the only woman by his side. People at the company would say he had turned over a new leaf, calmed down, and even praised me as the lady of the house. I would smile it off, but deep inside there was a glimmer of hope. There's a saying that the path to a woman's soul goes through her vagina. Losing one's virginity, the heart may gradually become lost as well. He was my first man, and occasionally, in good spirits, he was willing to play along and dote on me. After experiencing his gentle affection, I couldn't help but gradually become entranced. Though I repeatedly told myself to remain resolute, a certain corner of my heart inevitably began to develop some feelings. Until that day, when I returned from a business trip, exhausted, and opened the door, just in time to see him sitting on the genuine leather sofa in the living room, was about to give him a warm embrace. However, when he turned his face towards me, it was as cold as winter. His eyes shadowed, "Abort the child." My entire body turned cold, and it took me a while to understand. I had been going for regular checkups at a company under the Leonard family, had recently not been feeling well, and I had just gone for a medical examination. I didn't expect to learn the results of my medical report from his mouth. Ironically, I, as a mother, didn't even know about the arrival of my child, while he, as a father, couldn't wait to get rid of the child. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palm without me realizing. Riker looked at me with cold eyes, even carrying a hint of anger that I couldn't quite identify. My stomach was in pain, and I was at a loss. I had only become a mother for a few minutes, and I was already about to lose it. I knew I had no negotiating power, but I still humbly pleaded with him, "Can we keep it? I can raise him or her on my own without being a burden to you. I don't like kids who get married and then get rid of it. Don't make me say it a second time. Caitlin, what I want is your obedience. I can give you what you have now and leave you with nothing, including your family." His gaze was gloomy, as if the fact that I was carrying his child made him furious. Suddenly, I felt something in my heart shatter and fall to the ground, never to be whole again. "Yes, Mr. Leonard." I stood up looking at the dark, boundless night outside the window, as if there would be no more sunshine in my world. The wedding was very simple, and the Leonard family thought I had trapped Riker into marriage with a child. They didn't like me at all. Especially Riker's mother, Madame Leonard, had never shown me a kind face, felt like an outsider walking through the entire wedding. Riker needed a trophy wife to shield him, and I wanted to spare my parents the sleepless nights and silent tears. We both got what we needed. In the blink of an eye, it had been over 3 years since I married Riker. I left early and returned late, and he frequently traveled domestically and internationally. Outwardly, we appeared to be a happy and exemplary couple, but in reality, we were becoming more and more distant, barely seeing each other for several months at a time. "Madam, please come back to reality." My thoughts came to an abrupt halt, and I looked down at the coffee cup on the table, slowly regaining my composure. We hadn't seen each other for several days since Riker left in the middle of the night. The housekeeper, responsible for cleaning the house, called me in a hurry. "There's a woman outside looking for you." I took a sip of coffee. "Why are you so nervous?" The housekeeper hesitated with a look of sympathy in her eyes. "She's holding a child." A sharp pain shot through my chest, and my hands and feet suddenly turned cold. The coffee in my mouth tasted even more bitter. It had come as expected. I struggled to maintain the dignity of Mrs. Leonard. "Bring her in." The moment I saw the woman and the child, I understood why the housekeeper had been so flustered. I recognized her at a glance. She was Anna Kahn, the first love Riker had once put on his phone's screensaver. And the child in her arms was practically a mini version of Riker. "Riker, you were so heartless to personally kill our child. It turns out it wasn't because you didn't like children, it was because the person carrying your child wasn't the right one." Anna was dressed in a pure white dress, looking innocent and timid. When she looked at me, she appeared somewhat cautious. "Excuse me, is Riker here? The child is sick, and I'm running out of money for medical expenses at home. I've been calling him these past few days, but he hasn't answered." I looked at her coldly. "What does it have to do with me?" She probably didn't expect me to be so indifferent. After her expression stiffened for a few seconds, she continued with a pitiful tone, "I know I shouldn't disturb you, but I had no other choice. This is my child with Riker, Jerome Leonard. 3 years ago, I returned to the country, and Riker had already arranged for a paternity test." 3 years ago. It was actually 3 years ago. Was it because of Jerome that he couldn't accept my child? Anna appeared humble on the surface but seemed to take pleasure in her situation. She kissed her child's cheek and looked at me with a triumphant and provocative expression. Was genuinely surprised that among all the women surrounding Riker, it was this low-ranking, deceitful woman he couldn't forget. I didn't know whether to feel sorry for him or for myself, as I was being forced into a confrontation with the other woman and her child. I forced myself to remain calm, picked up the cold coffee, took a sip, and grimaced at its bitterness. "So, you want to come here to show off with your child and force me to leave?" Anna probably didn't expect me to be so direct and calm. Her expression was somewhat embarrassed. I smiled and stared into her eyes. "I'm afraid that won't work for you. As long as Riker and I are never divorced, you will never enter the Leonard family, and your child will always be a bastard." Anna winced at my sharp words, and her expression became somewhat distorted. She held the child tighter, causing him to cry. She dropped the act and looked at me coldly. Why bother? Must you claim a position that doesn't belong to you? Must you steal a man who doesn't love you? Anna smoothed her hair, smirking victoriously. Riker doesn't love you, he has only ever loved me, and he said that his child will always be the one I give birth to, not anyone else. My heart ached, but looking at her triumphant face, I forced a smile through my gritted teeth. I took a step closer, looked at the child in her arms, and reached out to touch his soft cheek. Anna was startled by my actions and instinctively stepped back, watching me cautiously. I smiled and said, "The child is quite cute. Do you want to have him? Go ahead, I don't mind. If you're okay with it, I can take him back to the Leonard family and raise him for you." After saying this, I looked at the housekeeper. "Please show the guest out." No matter how much was said, it wouldn't change anything. I was tired, and I waved my hand for the housekeeper to escort her out. "Don't go." She suddenly tightly grasped my wrist, causing me pain. I tried to pull away but found I couldn't break free. I asked sharply, "What are you doing?" Before she could answer, a familiar figure appeared at the front door. Anna suddenly rammed into the nearby dining table, and the child fell straight to the ground. Riker rushed over like an arrow and anxiously picked up the child to examine him. Once he realized the child wasn't seriously hurt, he sighed in relief and glared at me. "You won't even spare the child?" Seeing Anna's triumphant and disdainful smile directed at me, I realized I had underestimated her ruthlessness. Faced with Riker's skeptical and angry eyes, my eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Even if he didn't love me after being together for so many years, he should know that I would never stoop to this level. "Riker, since you're so curious about whether I've harmed your lover and child, why don't you clarify something for me? Why would I risk being discovered by you at any moment early in the morning to invite her into our home to cause trouble?" Anna's face turned pale. Riker turned to look at her, and she explained weakly, "Riker, you've misunderstood. Just now, I accidentally twisted my foot and fell. It has nothing to do with Ms. Thompson." I couldn't help but sneer at her. "How does it have nothing to do with you? If it weren't for your attempt to frame me, why would you be willing to drop the child on the ground and crash into the dining table?" Riker's expression darkened completely. Anna panicked and tried to explain softly, but Riker couldn't hear her. "Just said to me, Caitlin, we don't have a child. This child can be registered under your name, and from now on you will be his mother." Anna didn't expect it to end this way. She panicked, tugging at Riker. She displayed a soft and pitiful expression, something any man would find hard to resist. "Riker, I'm Jerome's biological mother. He has always depended on me since he was a child." Riker turned his head, and his eyes suddenly became deep. "My wife has always been Caitlin. We will take good care of Jerome, but as for you, I will provide you with the best conditions." "Enough, enough, enough." I covered my ears and couldn't help but scream, had no interest in Anna's child. Having the child around me was just a constant reminder of my own abandoned child. I took a deep breath and looked at Riker. I looked at the man who had hurt me so deeply, the man I had kept hidden in the depths of my heart. "Riker, I'll make it easy for all of you. We're getting a divorce." "Caitlin." It was only when the voice of my colleague Laura Mercer suddenly rang out that I realized I had once again fallen into the depths of my memories. "Why do I feel like you've been preoccupied for a while? I've been calling your name and you haven't responded." Laura took out a bag of chips from her desk drawer and offered them to me. "Want some?" I accepted them. "Our company's boss mentioned earlier that they're transferring him. The new boss is starting today." In the workplace, the identity of the big boss didn't affect us small fries much. At that time, Riker didn't want a divorce, but no one can keep someone who truly wanted to leave. After my divorce from Riker, I resigned from my position as a manager at the Leonards and Thompsons Group, left my home, and joined the Pearsons, the neighboring company. Originally, I didn't like sales, so I decided to switch to a different field and joined an internet company, starting as a web design novice. It's been over a year since then. Laura was a good friend I met shortly after I joined the company, rented an apartment together and worked together, becoming close confidants. Her carefree and outgoing personality had a subtle influence on me. I thought I would be devastated after the divorce, but in reality, it wasn't as hard as I had expected. Apart from constantly thinking about him, it was bearable. I heard the new CEO is a very handsome guy. Laura leaned in, looking mysteriously excited. Recently, Leonard's group has been expanding into various industries and forming comprehensive cross-regional collaborations. Somehow, they acquired our new company saying they want to focus on internet development. I suddenly had a bad feeling. Who's the new CEO? It seems his name is Riker something? Laura scratched her chin thoughtfully. The cup of my Snoopy ceramic mug dropped to the floor and shattered. Could the world really be this small? I didn't believe it. I only believed in the persistence of lingering spirits and enduring awkwardness. For instance, right now, all 6 departments have gathered in the conference room, listening attentively to the new CEO, Riker, as he gives orders, and managers report on their work. Everyone is taking detailed notes. But I'm the only one who notices that Riker, sitting in the center, appears to be listening to work reports, yet his deep gaze lingers for a few extra seconds on my calves and ankles, then he pretends nothing happened. In the past, I always wore black suits and stockings, my hair neatly tied up, dressed like a proper lady, but yesterday, just after work, I was dragged out by my friend Laura and ended up staying overnight at her place. I wore her clothes. It was a white knee-length dress with a high slit on one side, paired with round-toed high heels. In that position, a good portion of my fair legs was exposed. My skin has always been pale, and this pose was, to some extent, alluring. His deep gaze suddenly seemed to ignite, fixated on my exposed legs, and I felt uncomfortable, awkwardly tugged at my skirt. I glared at him fiercely, but instead of getting angry, Riker just had a hint of amusement in his eyes. Mr. Leonard? Manager Bruce Pratt beside us broke the ambiguous atmosphere between us and successfully diverted Riker's attention. Riker nodded, and Bruce continued, "To celebrate Mr. Leonard's arrival, we've reserved a table at the 3rd-floor banquet hall of the largest 5-star hotel. I'd like to invite you to attend." "Sure." Riker's melodious voice rang out, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of annoyance. After the meeting, he stared at me intently for a while. When he saw I was ignoring him, he got up and left. "Tonight, I'm going to wear the most stunning dress." Laura was excited with stars in her eyes as the meeting ended. Maybe tonight, I'll be able to charm a handsome guy and finally get out of singlehood. I'm not going. I started packing up my files, ready to make a quick exit. What? Why? Laura was puzzled. I hadn't had a chance to answer when Bruce, the middle-aged man with a portly face, passed by us. "Everyone has to attend. If you don't go, your salary will be deducted," he said with disapproval. Damn capitalists, damn capitalist lackeys. So I had no choice but to attend, and I couldn't shake this ominous feeling that Riker's presence was just too coincidental. It made me unable to stop thinking. As expected, when we arrived at the restaurant and I was seated next to him, the awkwardness reached its peak. Among all 6 departments, our department had the most female employees, so the managers arranged for some of our female colleagues to sit at the same table as the CEO. During the banquet, apart from the 6 department heads taking turns to propose toasts to Riker, the rest of us were also forced to drink quite a bit. Everyone's faces started showing a slight blush. Bruce encouraged Laura with his eyes, signaling her to liven up the atmosphere with some of our female colleagues. "Come on, let's play a game to spice things up a bit, shall we?" Laura, who had had a bit too much to drink, spoke with a slightly slurred voice. Riker, who usually was very serious at work and didn't participate in these kinds of games, surprised everyone by speaking up. "Truth or dare?" Everyone in the room was momentarily stunned, including me. Bruce promptly organized the game, and soon they were playing. When it was Riker's turn to roll the dice, it landed on me. "I'll ask a question," he said, gazing at me beneath the alternating lights, his eyes hidden in the shadows. "If a husband, due to a misunderstanding, breaks his wife's heart, does he have a chance to make amends?" Everyone in the room fell silent, watching the two of us with suspicion. After all, we had both publicly declared ourselves as single. I had no desire to discuss these things with him. I raised my glass with a smile and said, "Mr. Leonard, I don't understand matters of the heart. I can't answer your question, so how about I take a penalty and drink to your health?" "No, we must play a real game of truth or dare," Bruce, who had grabbed a chocolate bar left from the game on the table, handed it to me. Now I was stuck. The loser would have to hold the chocolate bar and feed the winner. I wished I had said I had no chance from the beginning. "Mrs. Thompson, you don't have to if you don't want to," Riker said, his smile deepening, and he spoke up for me, but it was the depth and the certainty in his eyes, combined with his comments, that aroused my competitive spirit. Why did he assume that I could never escape his grasp? Why did he always look down on me and disturb my peace of mind? I laughed and made an effort to be as charming as possible. I took the chocolate bar from Bruce and walked over to Riker, who was seated. "Mr. Leonard, you may have underestimated me. If I lose, I accept it." Perhaps it was the effect of alcohol, or maybe it was the cheer from the crowd, but I felt like I was in a daze. I bit into the chocolate bar, moved closer to his enticing lips, and while his face still maintained an air of reserved nobility, his composure was shaken, and his hands, which had been resting on the table, moved closer to my waist, trembling ever so slightly, revealing his emotions. So what if I let myself go a bit crazy? I had come here to escape him, but why wouldn't he let me go? I wouldn't admit defeat. I was determined to push him to the brink. My fingertips brushed against the buttons of his shirt, teasing his chest in a barely perceptible manner. I could clearly feel his body heat and his unique scent as he reacted to me. He suddenly grasped my fingers, which had been causing a commotion, and my cheeks turned crimson. My heartbeat echoed in my chest. The sound was loud, and I couldn't distinguish whether it was his heartbeat or mine, but I knew we were both intoxicated with each other's presence. I finished the last bit of the chocolate bar and was about to retreat completely when he tightly embraced me, refusing to let go. The warmth of his hand startled me, and I furrowed my brow. Just as I was about to speak, he suddenly took control, seeking revenge through his actions. Wow! The entire room gasped in shock. I was embarrassed and tried to push the man in front of me away, but once he became stubborn, he paid no heed to the circumstances. He kissed me fiercely, not with tenderness but with the force of retribution. We're deeply engrossed, to the point where we couldn't tell whose lips were bleeding, his or mine. With our managers and Laura looking on in shock, I suddenly woke up from my daze. I slapped him hard. Snap! He finally moved his face away, but his hands continued to hold me tightly, as if afraid I would leave. I pushed him away forcefully, taking a step back in a panic. I immediately grabbed my bag and ran away. I rushed out of the hotel but was stopped by a Lamborghini parked by the roadside. It was the Leonard family's private car. Before I could react, someone pulled me back, and I was met with the anxious, deep eyes of Riker. "Listen to my explanation, get in the car." "Let me go," I forced myself to say calmly, fearing that my racing heart would betray me. It was unbelievable, but I had just developed feelings for him. He released my hand but leaned in close to my ear, whispering, "If you don't want your friend, Laura, to lose her job tomorrow, you can leave now." With those words, he got into the car but left the door open, allowing me to choose. I bit my lip and reluctantly got into the car. The vehicle started moving slowly, and the atmosphere inside the confined space was heavy with tension. In the dim light from the street lamps, I saw his slender, rugged lines, which became increasingly alluring. The Riker I knew from before was a refined gentleman with impeccable manners. Even in matters of intimacy, he had always approached things with formality. But the current him, so fascinating, was like a mystery wrapped in mist, making it hard for me to see clearly and yet all the more captivating. I rolled down the car window, the cold wind brushing against my cheek, helping me regain some sobriety. I heard my own voice, slightly cold and tinged with vulnerability that I couldn't hide. "What do you want to explain?" He turned his head, leaned in, and placed both hands on the car door, trapping me in a small space. His clear eyes, filled with emotion, felt like they could peer into the depths of my soul, reflecting my bewildered face. "Caitlin, Anna's child is not mine." I stared at him in shock but quickly regained my composure. "Anna said you had a paternity test done, so the child is yours." "That's true," he acknowledged. "But I didn't touch her. That child is the result of in vitro fertilization using the sperm stored in my genetic bank at the hospital. I suspect it has something to do with my second brother." The Leonard family had 3 sons. The eldest, Sebastian Leonard, was an elite lawyer who had settled in the UK. The second, Charles Leonard, was a medical prodigy and currently worked as the chief physician at one of the country's largest private hospitals, known as a child genius. Charles was my ex-boyfriend, and we had dated for 3 months. Our relationship had been quite innocent, not progressing beyond kisses. Realized that we were not a good match, so I broke up with him. Later, for the sake of family interests, I had to get closer to Riker and be with him. Remembered the dark, cold look in Charles' eyes at my wedding and fell silent. Probably thought that Riker and I had betrayed him. The person I've always liked is you. I've known all along that you had your reasons for being with me, and you've always been so cold toward me. I thought you didn't care about me at all. That's why I created so many sensational stories. It was all just to get your attention. He sighed, and, as if conceding, he embraced me. The tenderness in his eyes was something I had never seen before. But since I've been with you, I've never been with them. I've only had you on my mind. His words were like a pebble thrown into the calm waters of my heart, creating ripples. Yet, I still couldn't let it go and asked, the scent of other women you left behind, is that also fake? Seeing that I still cared, Riker's eyes sparkled with tiny stars. My secretary, Darlene, did that. She said that to capture a woman's heart, you first need to make her jealous. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and his eyes darkened. Through gritted teeth, he added, I never expected things to backfire. It only pushed you further away. It was only when you left, and I was on a business trip, that she suddenly seduced me. I found out that it was all her scheme. I had heard about the gossip of Darlene seducing him and subsequently getting fired. Thinking about the awkward way Darlene had been thrown out of the house, I couldn't help but chuckle. Seizing the opportunity, he held my hand, making it seem like there was no escape, but my amusement was short-lived. Since you said you liked me, why did you give up on our child? Do you know that for all these years, every time I saw a child, it was unbearable for me? The pain of losing a child replays in my nightmares every midnight. Riker remained silent for a long time, and just when I thought he had nothing to say, he finally spoke. I was in a car accident once. Although I survived, my internal organs were seriously damaged. The doctors told me I could no longer have children. When you got pregnant, Charles told me that it wasn't my child. I stared at him in disbelief, my pain growing deep within. Just because he said that, you assumed I had an affair and didn't want our child? Pain also surfaced on his face. I didn't fully trust Charles, so I went for detailed medical examinations at the hospital, and the results showed that my body couldn't conceive. So during this time when I didn't come to see you, I knew that I had hurt you. I thought you had given up on me completely, and I wanted to investigate everything and then explain it to you. He held me even tighter, as if he was afraid of losing me in the next moment. But I had been silent, tears already streaming down my face as I tried to push him away. I was wrong, Caitlin. Please give me one more chance. His face changed, and he sounded desperate as he tried to hold my hand back. I avoided his embrace and turned my face away, unwilling to have further contact with him. Even though he couldn't father children due to a medically inexplicable reason, in the end, it was still his lack of trust and suspicion that had driven us to this point. Our child was gone, and it would never come back. It would always remain a painful thorn in both mine and Riker's hearts. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Riker became even more panicked, embraced me with great force, resting his forehead on my shoulder, pleading, Caitlin, please give me one last chance, can you? Please, I don't want to lose you. His warmth penetrated my clothing and met my skin. Where our bodies touched, there was warmth and lingering affection. Maybe it was the effect of the alcohol, or perhaps it was the sadness in his voice. I couldn't help but gently embrace him and kiss his lips. He rejoiced, embracing me with great strength as if he had retrieved something he had lost. He kissed me passionately, filled with a mixture of ardor, sadness, and regret. I closed my eyes and told myself, this is the last time I'll love him. 3 months had passed since that night without me realizing it. My request, Riker never came to see me again. The manager and Lara were both shocked when they asked me if I had been with Riker, and I told them that Riker had made a public announcement at the company, stating that he had simply pursued me but had been rejected. Riker quickly addressed any office gossip and rumors. My life gradually returned to normal, like that of an ordinary white-collar worker, worked during the day and lived a simple, free life in my small nest at night. However, the world turned out to be quite small. One day, while shopping at a mall with Lara, I ran into Anna, who was trying on clothes with her child. Anna pushed a baby stroller inside an upscale children's clothing store. She arrogantly instructed the salesperson to bring out various clothing items for her to choose from, all of them from high-end brands, with imported fabrics. Each piece of clothing was worth several $1,000s. I was about to take Laura and find another path, but Anna had sharp eyes and stopped us in our tracks. "Oh, isn't this Caitlin Thompson? Long time no see," she said with a sneer. I pretended not to hear her, but she grabbed the baby stroller and blocked our way, her sharp and slender face distorted by jealousy. "Clearly, Riker already has a child. Why are you still clinging to him? And now you're working in the same company as him." Before I could respond, Laura, not one to back down, chimed in. "It was Mr. Leonard who pursued Caitlin. Caitlin and I were colleagues even before Mr. Leonard joined the company. So who's pursuing whom is still up for debate." Anna's beautiful face contorted further with jealousy. She stared at me coldly and asked, "How much money do you want to leave Riker?" She was acting as though she were the legitimate wife, and I was the mistress. Unsurprisingly, Laura stood there wide-eyed, unable to believe what she was hearing. Didn't want to make a scene, so I grabbed Laura, who was bewildered by the intense conversation, and tried to leave. "Trying to leave? It's not that easy." Anna's malicious voice came from behind. Felt a strong force pulling me back. "Ah, be careful." I heard Laura's scream beside me. When I looked back, I saw a staircase that was several stories high. "Caitlin, Caitlin." It was so noisy. Who was calling my name? I was tormented by this incessantly loud voice, and I couldn't sleep. Also smelled the unpleasant odor of hospital disinfectant on my nose. Ever since I had an abortion, I had developed an aversion to that smell. "Caitlin." The voice was so annoying, I couldn't stand it any longer and reluctantly opened my eyes. There before me was Riker, looking tired, disheveled, and with a scruffy beard. When had the confident and assertive young master from the Leonard family turned into this disheveled man before me? "You've finally woken up." Riker was overwhelmed with joy. He leaped out of his chair and hugged me tightly, his trembling lips pressed fiercely against mine, as if he needed to feel my warmth and presence. "When I heard you were about to fall down the stairs, I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my life. The doctor later examined you and said there was nothing major, but you just wouldn't wake up." I could feel his anxiety and fear, and a warm feeling began to well up inside me. I realized that I still cared about him. I gently hugged him back, patting his back to reassure him. "So, did I actually fall down the stairs later?" "No, Laura was there to grab you just in time. When you fell, you accidentally hit your head on the stainless steel guide sign by the stairs, and then you passed out. My bodyguards showed up in time and restrained Anna, and they brought you both to the hospital." "How's Laura?" "She only had a few superficial injuries. Fine." Riker paused for a moment and then smiled. "You, on the other hand, are pregnant. We're about 3 months along." I was shocked. I had a wild night with Riker, and we thought we would never see each other again. How could it be that I was now expecting a baby? Could it be that fate took pity on me, and after I lost my child, who tormented me in my nightmares, it decided to give it back to me? I was so excited and determined to protect it and make sure it was never harmed again. Thinking about Riker's condition, I asked, "You don't doubt it anymore?" He smiled and the deep brooding look in his eyes was replaced with brightness. "Maybe it's a medical miracle. The doctors couldn't believe it either, but it turns out I still have the ability to reproduce. I'm very certain that this child is mine." He trembled as he gently placed his hands on my belly. Suddenly, he remembered something and said with seriousness, "In the past few days, Anna has been admitted to a psychiatric hospital, refusing treatment and going on a hunger strike. Is very weak now, so I sent the nanny to take care of the child. But we found out the child has a congenital form of leukemia, and our blood types don't match." I paused for a moment, overwhelmed by the amount of information. He pinched my cheek with a hint of helplessness in his voice. "That child is the result of Charles' collusion with Anna. At that time, all the tests were manipulated by Charles in cahoots with the hospital. It was seamless, and I was completely deceived, all for the sake of revenge against us." "So how do you plan to deal with Jerome?" I asked. "I will place the child under his name and let him take care of it. Riker said through gritted teeth, thinking of Charles. He has become a disgrace to my family. After I take charge, I will no longer be led around by him. I nodded. During my coma, Riker remained on edge. Now that he saw me fine, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He lay down next to me but still subconsciously held me tightly, as if afraid I will leave. I stroked my belly, feeling the heartbeat inside, lying quietly in his embrace, watching his sleeping face, and gently kissing his lips. The afternoon sunlight shined through the window, bringing a sense of warmth and tranquility. Perhaps our beginning was not perfect, and the journey was full of twists and turns, but as long as the ending was happy, it was worth it. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.